When you're ready. So when we're looking at the camera here. Where's the camera?
The camera's all 360.
Oh, cool.
Just that normal.
Yeah, no problem. I can do that. Okay. Okay to go?
Yep.
Okay. Call the advisory committee meeting to order for the water system and pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Jeff Carey,
Scott Gordon.
Jim Freeman.
okay, we have the agenda before us. Any additions or anything of that nature?
I did provide in a subsequent email, the current as-bills that have been worked on with West Sound Engineering. On what could just be handled in the general water systems discussion.
Okay, in the general, maybe like the new business or, Oh, there.
After new business.
oh, okay. So the as-built drawing,
Yep, in their current state.
I'd also like to add just a quick discussion about, what upcoming water system plan update and the 2026 water system budget, just
Okay.
touch on it and see what committee thinks. So basically 3 items added to the general water system discussion. One was the as-built, to review them, and a quick discussion, in my mind, it was a quick discussion about the upcoming water system plan for the port and the 2026 water system budget. And I'll entertain a motion in a second. As chair, I can't make the motions.
So you wanna make a motion to discuss those things? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I'll make a motion. Let's get it on the table.
Yep.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Approval of the minutes. They're not here this time.
Nope, they'll be at the
Okay.
next week.
Board staff report announcements.
Okay, the our additions to the DOH have been submitted to the DOH through our engineer, Mike Michaels. We're still waiting on a reply.
But they got,
Yeah, they got the bid documents and then they got the testing requirements that were required by it. There's just not much to
no, it's-
report on that now that we're still waiting. And I have the email chain, showing that they passed it on to the right person, so I will touch bases with them. I'm planning on Monday. And see if I get a reply,
okay, great.
just because it's been going on 3 weeks now. I was hoping that they could turn it around in a few weeks, so. Do a little poking, see what happens.
Okay. Anything else? From staff side?
Everything else is pretty much in the
Yeah, okay.
content of the meeting.
Any committee members, if I could speak? Anything?
No.
New?
Well, I got something to say, a little bit, as always, but. I wanna say that the little bit I've been around the port and with Travis here. Travis was thrown into a situation that we all know about, and he has certainly put in the effort and the time and the commitment to try to right the Port of Allyn, and I think he's doing a great job. From the little bit I've been around, just like this water committee and stuff, I feel like he cares and is trying. So I wanted to say that about Travis, the little bit I've been around. I think he's certainly putting in the effort. So.
Great, thank you, Jim. Second that.
I had a third that, maybe even fourth at the same time. And maybe just to add on to that, we've gotten into things we haven't touched for years. You know, the port, and so even putting our heart and all that soul into getting it on track, we're actually doing some things we should have done a long time ago.
Yeah,
And that's, you know, yes, it's late on the progress, but, you know, you're thrown right in the middle of it, and basically we're landing on our feet and moving ahead. So much appreciated also.
Thank you. I guess I could add back on the staff report, that, the board is currently exploring bringing somebody else into the maintenance side that also has a lot of water infrastructure installation experience. So that, we are able to keep the work that's being installed on the system, held to our specifications through experience and knowledge.
Right?
great.
Okay, thank you. Old business. Discussion and recommendations of Exodus Acres wheelwright extension.
So let me ask you this, Jeff, where's Travis, or whoever, but
Yeah, go ahead.
these. This is upcoming development that's happening, is that correct?
It's my understanding, yeah.
It's upcoming
Yeah.
development that's been applied for, and we're just working through the
And you're trying,
terms of the application.
right, and you are asking us to look over this and see if anything's missing, if we should add anything, you see any corrections that are possible, is that correct?
Yes, as advisory.
Okay,
As advisory.
and then this will go back to the engineer and get rewritten and notify the developer.
Yeah,
Do we have a large set of prints? These are very hard to read. They should give you a large set.
I agree. The only advantage, at least when he emails it, I can blow it up on the monitor.
That's why I do look at the monitor.
And then, but as far as once I'm printing it,
But they didn't give for it yet.
No, we were
Okay.
waiting for an approved set, that thing.
Okay,
We do have in correlation, we do have the as-built that, in the 6-page document I provided. That are current as-built that also tie into the same areas that the wheelwright development is also.
okay, so I'll say this, that Travis is up to speed somewhat. And Jeff Carey's up to speed somewhat as far as what's kind of existing and where they're tying in from. So I gotta start at the beginning here a little bit, even though we talked a little bit about this last week. Where would they be tying in on this print?
Okay, so they'll be tying in on the left, on the right lower corner. Where the bold water line mark heads north on Wheelwright Street.
Okay, right there at that valve. So that valve's existing, probably
That's an existing valve.
go off for expansion there,
Right.
okay.
Yep. So that's literally been the extension that was ready to go down Wheelwright Street.
Okay, so everything to the left would be new, is that correct? No, everything to the left is existing.
Yes, everything to the left.
And they're gonna tie on from that valve. So then where is the new drawing?
Yeah, this is right here.
This,
Right here, in this corner.
thank you.
Yep, that is the new drawing that was drawn up
it
through.
was left, it was left on mine, not left.
So this was the changes that were made through the comments that we reviewed last time. They did not see that there was actually a 3-valve. I guess intersection right here. Cause there's a lot going on in the middle of Drum Street and Wheelwright Street there. You've got that line that goes down and feeds Compass Lane and Sullivan Street. And then you also have another spur there that goes and is the proposed extension on the Wheelwright Street North.
Okay, so
For this
I
development.
gotta follow you, Travis, and I'm a little slow. Okay, so I just wanna make sure what we're doing is what we're doing. It's the dark line here.
Yep,
And we're gonna connect to the existing
yep,
valve. Okay, and we're heading straight up there.
Correct.
Basically all we're doing.
yep,
And you have one service, two meter boxes, one service line crossing and a blow off for expansion at the
Correct.
end. And I did make a comment last meeting that, try to pick one side of the road or the other instead of dead in the middle. Is that also a change that happened? or no?
No,
It
it's
was just a
been-
suggestion, so.
Well, some, first of all, somewhat it's, let me think here.
Well, that puts you like in the middle of easements,
Let
doesn't
me,
it?
I'm doing the math in my head just a second. So 1530. So it's just. Taking wheelwright north of this Drum Street intersection, not south, because there's a different problem south, but going north where they propose to add this extension. The water line is not quite where they're showing, it's not quite where it's gonna be, it's about 15 feet. Between 14 and 15 feet off the line, which still would keep it from not being under the asphalt.
Okay,
Because you have 60 feet, so if they come in 15 and the other 15, so you still got 30 and the roads are gonna be 20, 22. So it would still be just barely off the asphalt.
okay. I do have a question. So has the fire marshal been talked to about any of this as far as, hey, we're putting new main in, we're doing this and that?
No, but I have a meeting with him next week on another matter, so I'll bring it up.
Okay, that's something that I always do when we're extending. This is only 123 feet, but
He's,
he probably should be kept in the loop.
yeah, there's a fire hydrant from the intersection west going up the hill. There's a fire hydrant about 320 feet away.
Okay,
So he's right there at the cusp of where they have to start thinking,
Thinking another hydrant.
right,
If you went any further north on Wheelwright, it would require a hydrant.
and then the other thing I have, it looks pretty straightforward to me. It's not, this is not, it says there's a forced sewer main here, so they're gonna have to have their 10 feet of separation
that's what
somehow,
I asked Travis about
or
this.
they can case it.
Right, I asked Travis about this and Travis told me one thing and I forgot that this pipe, he told me that the engineering is saying that if it's the poly pipe, because I was first talked about the poly pipe.
It's not though.
No, I get it, I get it.
Yeah.
So the poly pipe doesn't have to be encased if it's a continuous length. There's no issue there. Apparently, that's what engineering's telling.
Yeah,
That's interesting to me, but okay.
That's new to me too, because I've always, whenever they're crossing,
You have to double case it. So this here, I would absolutely make sure
yes,
that this
it
is
has,
hitting.
it's a force, on top of it's not even gravity, it's forced.
Yeah, you don't want, if they're gonna be digging in the future and they hit that water, you want them to hit the casing
Yes.
first. So that has to be cased
I'd agree.
over there. So that's something that's very
And
important.
see, Travis, that pipe is in segments, 20 or less foot segments,
yeah,
the C 900.
the main, yeah.
Yeah, it's not hard to case it, but it.
No, I have, and the previous developer to the south actually had, because of where the sewer, because the port's water line was running at an angle on Wheelwright. Had to actually encase. Which way we do, I think we encased the sewer because the port's water line was already there, so we had to encase the sewer and basically we ran about 85 or 95 feet along. Because we weren't maintaining that 10-10 or 5-5 or some number that maintained 10 feet, we weren't maintaining that, so from that point where it dove under 10 feet. To where we got away from it, we actually sleeved the whole thing, and it's on that drawing I sent you. After this last meeting we had, when you asked me to send you some of the stuff I had from
Yeah,
Sealand Homes
right.
project,
Okay, so my suggestion is to make sure that gets cased.
I'd agree.
Somehow, and then the blow off for expansion. And it looks to me like, it got ran 10 feet beyond, so that's great. The other thing I do have is we're gonna talk about the new standards or specifications that the
Yeah,
port's gonna be requiring.
I wanna talk about that too.
And
Yeah,
if and when we implement this, it's going to change this because there won't be
yeah,
any more single tap, single run line with 2 meters off from it. Each one will be its own. The blow off for expansion will meet the new spec, all that stuff. So it's gonna be right at the change of when all this is happening, which is fine, and
yeah,
this is.
no, it's fine, in fact, I propose even that they might change one of it ahead of, if they're gonna make an addition. We'll discuss something that we worked on a blow off. That's a lot, it's something the city of San Jose's worked with, that seemed a lot cleaner for a blow off, and it seemed like it was a lot simpler apparatus to put together for a blow up.
What I'm saying is timing is, there's only one tap here, 2 meters and stuff. This is not a big project. If this gets implemented, which fine, and I agree it probably should,
Yeah.
then this will have to go back and say you have to have a separate tap for
Right.
each meter. So other than that, this is an easy one to do that.
So quick question and clarification, where the actual main is crossing the sewer line, right where it connects to the existing valve. If it's more than 18 inches of separation, does it still require the?
My understanding is, I've always been told yes, from ecology.
Yes, that's the way I understood it too. And
feet.
and to be honest, Travis,
Separation?
I don't know how far it has to be cased. I don't know if it's.
It's supposed-
20 foot, 10
No,
feet.
It's supposed to be 10 feet unbroken.
Yes, so is that 5 feet on each side of
No.
where the main is?
No,
It's
10.
10 feet on each side, so that's
Yeah.
20, okay.
Now, I believe I saw something where it could be less if it was 18 inches of
Right, if,
separation,
Right.
5 feet on.
right,
each
if, for example, if you had, you could be 5 feet, if if your sewer line's 5 feet down further.
Correct.
You know, it's kind of like a sum total, however, so you could have something that's 3 and something that's 8.
So that'll go back to the engineer, that question,
Yeah.
and then they actually make sleeving, spacers.
Yeah, usually,
That would be an engineer questions, cause it's gotta be held up. It's gotta be, you can't just. lay it
Yeah,
on
yeah,
top.
you just laying on top of
No, we-
it, it's special space.
we did that with that sewer, we actually got the spacers. It took a little while to get, but because we weren't up to speed on it, but once we were up to speed, it actually went together pretty decently.
Other
What
than
we'll
that,
be dealing with there is we're gonna have one crossing there at that valve at the intersection of Drum and Wheelwright.
Right.
You're gonna have a 1 inch crossing of the sewer line over on the that's the west end
Where we
of
talking,
Wheelwright Street,
what,
right here.
where we talking?
right here.
yeah, but this is the only new line.
Yeah, no, but this is a single line right here.
That's kind of.
That's my question too, kind of.
Yeah,
You talking about the west one that?
That's right.
yeah, the west connection
There's no
there,
sewer across.
it's not.
It doesn't show it.
Oh, I see, I'm actually misreading the dotted line in the middle of the street.
So, okay, so question, but in your experience, like when you cross stormwater, do you have to sleeve?
No,
Okay, I've never done it either side, but I've heard people sometimes, especially when it's a busy intersection, you know, with sewer, stormwater and everything, but
sewer for sure.
Yeah.
I've never done it on storm.
yeah, neither I, okay.
So, but there will be a crossing where the connections 3 and 4 listed. Because the new sewer line will go north to service those.
You mean where the 2 inch or whatever they got going?
Yeah,
Well,
because that sewer line will go parallel to the water line all the way up Wheelwright Street.
yeah, but there'll be a gap. Where the sewer's coming, where the sewer's going up Wheelwright to the north, it'll be far enough away from the water line.
And
Good
yeah,
job.
but until it crosses that,
We just,
There, you talk about that.
but we just need to, just make sure with, like Michael's, if that's fine, then that's fine. I mean, if that's the rule, that's the rule, but. You know, I've treated it like with kid gloves that, you know, when we cross, we sleeve it. That's why we always. Went to sleeving the water side, not the sewer side, because the water side was like a 1 inch or 2 inch pipe, and that was a lot cheaper than trying to sleeve a 8 inch pipe. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Is there a reason that the connection number 2 is off of Drum Street and not off of Wheelwright? To keep it standard,
Because there's already an existing building there.
it's because that's what you'd be easier, so that way you don't have to, someone
Well,
can tap into that first.
Yeah, there's an existing shop there.
okay, but it has a wheelwright address.
That's what I was wondering, because there's a line's already in there, so technically someone can connect that first.
There's no line existing there.
Who's proposing the existing to the connection?
Engineer must be.
Yeah, the engineer.
I was asking that, why it wouldn't be, just me looking at finding meters, you know, I've always asked why there's a why people don't put them. Like it's a low
Right,
meter
I
there
see
and not right off of Wheelwright, so you go down, all the meters on Wheelwright and all the meters on Blackwell Street. And it's easier to find those in the future, I mean.
Well,
it's just-
And that would be one thing if the address was like Drum Street or Sullivan. Which, you know, that street's called two different names, but just say Drum Street. But the address on that building is Wheelwright. So that means by postal standards, that means the front door, so to speak, is on the Wheelwright side, and that's where you want the meter. Usually,
And the front door isn't on that side of the street.
where's the front door gonna
The
be?
front door is literally on Drum Street.
And that's what, there's a reason, a common sense reason, I see
Yeah.
that, but,
Okay,
you know, the way the land is,
And
but.
then down there where you would be able to connect off of Wheelwright Street, it is a massive hill.
yeah, no,
That makes sense, that's what I was wondering.
I just noticed something also on the tap towards the end of the blow off, that is a 2-inch tap to feed those two 5/8 meters. That's,
It doesn't need to be a 2-inch.
it does not need to be at all, and that's very expensive for the developers, and they can put in the 2 single ones like we really want for the price of doing that 1 2-inch tap. 2-inch corks are very expensive, 2-inch saddle, 2-inch pipe is real and difficult to deal with. The developer themselves, and a benefit to us, would be much easier to do 2 1-inch taps
And then not split the
and not split the deal.
property line, keep it on either side of the property.
And that's what this is going to provide, is each home gets its own service line. So if one service line is leaking, you're not taking 2 people out of water or whatever in the future. If there's an issue with one home, it's one home only. Every meter should have its own tap. So. And to the developer, it'd be just as cheap than this 2-inch line. That's weird.
first of all, it shouldn't be 2, because 1.5 is 1.2 times the volume.
Normal operation, when they split these, normally,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, it's a 1-inch line
Yeah,
going
no,
across, and then they split to
I
the
know.
3/4 U branch. I don't know how this got in.
Mueller, you know, the valve people, they do make 1 and 1.5 U branches. I mean, yeah, 1.5 and 2 U branches, but,
Well, I'd like to see each
Yeah.
one have its own tap in the future as we go forward, but.
And that's still cheaper,
even,
Well, then,
two
then-
1-inch taps and 1-inch line is cheaper than 1 2-inch line.
yeah, those 2-inch
So it's a little
corps
cheaper.
are maybe $500 or so for the 2-inch corp, and then the 2-inch poly's real hard to work with and expensive. You can put them in the same ditch, the 2 1-inch lines. In the same ditch, yeah, absolutely.
I'll support it as long as the price is comparable or better.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, because they're-
Require 2 taps and 2 lines.
They're
rather than
still
one.
buying the 2
It's
sets.
cheaper, it's
The
more.
two
No,
setters are
No, I get it. I would just say that I think we're almost agreeing with Jim with the one thing is to double check the numbers, but if, you know, Fowler or, you know, Ferguson saying it's this, then fine, I have no problem.
Well,
The
here-
the bottom line, 2 reasons. One is, like you said, you isolate the issues if there's a problem. 2, we're trying to promote the, you know, trying to make it easy for developers.
Okay, and I got something to say about that. I'm not. I'm trying to make it right for the district.
Oh,
And
yeah,
here's
yeah,
what
yeah,
we
yeah.
absolutely do. I am not bed with any developers.
Yeah,
I
okay.
have no interest up there. I've got no land up there.
Fair.
I got nothing. I
Yeah.
just wanna make sure the district is taken care of, and it should be 2 separate taps, two lines.
It looks like, but it looks like they might line up though, the district and the developer.
Yeah,
on this one, But I just wanna make sure it's
I
clear.
got
I'm
it.
here for the district.
I got it. And like I said in the beginning, if there's a conflict of interest where, you know, I come into something of mine, I'm gonna, you know, I'll discuss it, but as far as voting on it, I will not vote on it or anything like that, so. But that doesn't fix anything I'm doing.
Like I said, I think there should be a happy medium between the two. The right way to do it, but also make sure that we're not creating more burden on a developer to charge more money than something that's simple to do. Well, that's my point. It's the same cost to do 2, it's less money than to do the 1, and that makes sense, but
And,
if a lot more money to do two taps and 2 lines, like a lot of money, then that doesn't seem like it's you know.
and to me, the other thing part is maintenance and safety, you know, how the safety side, you know, for the users and the port and then the maintenance.
Do you see where the two, these two, meter bases are set? Just right on the edge of the property line,
Yeah.
would they not require any kind of drive-on style box or anything? They could just be plastic boxes?
There, they could be plastic, they wouldn't have to be highway rated, it could
Okay.
be above the road, they would be above the road. And now. See, this is what I was talking to you about, in addition to construction standards, you know, like pipes and valves and all this kind of thing. There's other components we need to see, like where sewer lines are really gonna be run. What's he gonna do, or what they're gonna do with parking, are they gonna widen the road and make, like, Sealand Homes made wider parking areas in the right of way. If they decide to regrade that and make parking there, then we would wanna make those sure that those are highway rated. Valve boxes. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I-
At
at
that
the
point, they'd have
At
to
the
be
moment,
replaced.
it's up on the hill, it's up above what the road would be. But I don't know what they're gonna do.
Sure.
You know, for example, right below there, there's a stormwater running right between the middle of the road and their valve box, okay? That's gonna be lower, in time, that's gonna get tight lined. It's open ditch right now, but it'll be tight lined. So that's gonna encourage people to wanna maybe park there. And depending where that box is,
I would handle it if it's already, if it's existing, because that's all we can deal with, we can't speculate. If
Right.
it's existing and it looks like it's gonna be up in some flower bed up on a little
Sure.
bank, I would put the plastic boxes in. If and when a contractor, developer comes back through and says, hey, I need to widen the road, I need to do this, that is time and materials, because those services have to be lowered.
yeah,
And boxes need to be put in at that point, and that'll be on the person doing that regrading. But right now, this is what we're dealing with, their plastic boxes are up there, when the time comes. And he wants to widen the road, it's another fee.
okay.
That's what I look at too, if you're gonna make changes to what it is.
I'm kind of a futuristic guy, meaning, come on, guys, get it all laid out now and get it, you figure it out.
It should be,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to be, but it's a little rough, and that's how I would handle it. just
Okay.
Dealing with.
I
what
don't
we got.
disagree, I mean, that's.
I think cost wise dictates development and what's there now and.
I just know that they will have to tightline that storm drainage, and that's gonna get them closer to that
Mhm.
box. It still may be higher, but it's getting closer.
Right, and Travis will be on top of it at that point, and he'll go up there and say, hey, these gotta get moved, and it's gonna be time and materials, and we'll get them moved.
Fair. Okay, plastic thing. I'm not gonna make any deal about it, but this water line, going up Drum Street's not, I went out and measured it, it's not accurate, so. I'm not gonna make a fuss about it, but. And I don't mean by a foot, I mean by damn 10 feet over 300 feet, okay?
It does say here C900, a lot of the district's been put in at C900, I see, the blue water main,
Yeah.
correct?
I believe that in your specs call for,
Ductile iron is
Ductile iron.
what I went to years ago, there's a lot of reasons I went to it, it is tried and true and real. I've had issues in the past with the C900 splitting over time, I've certainly had issues with, trying to go in there and add taps later, it gets brittle and it splits. It's, you think of it like, hey, it's plastic, it's gonna last forever.
No,
The ductile iron's real, we don't have any issues with it here. As far as hot soils, Hawaii, if you put it in over there, it won't last 5 years. Cause the soils are very acidic and it eats it up, but here, zero issue, you dig up ductile iron 20 years from now, it's the same pipe.
you know, there's another grade of C900. Actually, there's 3 grades of C900. Normally they pick the middle one, but I mean,
Yeah, I'm not a fan of plastic piping, I've been out there on the Sched 40, Sched 80, I've been out there on all of it.
I know schedule 40 has its own, you know, I've seen some good, bad, and ugly with that.
I had a C900 blow up on me when I was tapping it.
All right, just
It-
shattered?
Oh, no, it'll split 5-10 feet and then it was under a lot of pressure and it busted out
Huh,
when I was down there. It's not what you think it should be over time.
yeah,
And ductile iron stands the test of time. So that's why I went to it. That's our standard, that we use, it's real, but it's up to you guys, but, that's my feeling.
I can understand, I mean, if you have something like blow up in your face,
Yeah,
you can, it can be printed in the Bible, this is how it is, but if you've seen it and you've experienced it.
yeah, and it's not just been that one occasion.
No,
There's been several instances where it has failed and had issues. Ductile iron stands up to earthquakes, C
Yeah.
900 doesn't, there's a lot of things.
Ground just shifts, moves.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that's gonna be dealt with here.
so when Belfair upgraded their water line here, when the highway got widened, what did they end up using ductile iron
Ductile,
all the
yeah,
way?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, absolutely. Yep, and that's all we used at the other district too, but the other district had stuff in there from 20 years before and stuff, and that's the
yeah.
stuff I was dealing with.
right,
But once we went to ductile, there's been no issues, it's tried and true.
Depending on how long it sits in supply yards, it's also less susceptible to sunlight.
Oh, we don't have any issues with that, it turns white, that C 900, and
Yeah.
it gets bad right away, so, anyhow. But that, I think that's for later talk here.
yeah,
Okay,
fair.
Just real quick, you mentioned that the line on the drawing was off by how much, 33 Drum Street?
When you start at the bottom there, at the intersection of Drum and Wheelwright, and then go all the way up the other end,
Yeah.
it's off quite a bit. Let me see here. When you measure it down, first of all, the line is either, let's see, where's it, 15? So the line is running right around 12, 13 feet off the southern boundaries. North of the southern boundary, or, excuse me, north of the northern boundaries of these lots on Drum Street. And it's pretty straight, cause I went up to fire hydrant and I went down to the other meter, or not meter, but valve.
Yeah.
And knowing it's not at the valve, it's a few feet further on. But there's no, I mean. Marty ran straight always. As far as laying pipe, there have been some other items differently, but.
Might have been some other instances.
But as far as laying pipe, I mean, I got a picture of him running the pipe up to the tank,
Yeah.
and it's straight.
Okay. And then the wheelwright was off about by 10 feet, you say? Closer to the middle of the road?
It should be close. If you're
Closer to
talking-
the
Which one are we talking about? The north, south, or the east, west?
the north-south extension.
It's close.
Okay.
It's probably a couple feet yet, still further
Okay,
west of.
it's close, it's close.
It's close. When you can take a measuring tape and you're off, you know you got a problem. And,
I'll still mention it.
yeah, and then one last thing on the, what do they know, dude?
Really should be one,
So,
about 2 feet,
so here's a good hard number for you, okay? From the southwest corner of, and I'm gonna just give you the last 5 digits of the parcel, okay? 53001.
yep,
The southwest corner goes straight south to the other side of the street. 40, somewhere between 45 and 46 feet is where the water line is. And that's pretty damn straight all the way down. And then tell me when you're done, like, again, these are not gonna break it, but at the same time, it's like, you're an engineer, get it close. Tell me when you're done, you know. You got one of the little. things straight.
001 is straight south 56 feet,
No, 46, 45 to 46 feet.
45.
The old easement was 60 feet. And the water line's about 14, 15 feet off one line side, or about 45 to 46 feet off the other side.
And that's off the
So you
straight south edge.
just straight, run parallel with Blackwell.
Okay.
that make sense?
I think so.
Okay, see that meter box they got up there for lot 2 there?
Yeah,
That should only be at most 2.5 feet north of the northwest corner of 53001. You know, that's easily 10 feet there on this drawing. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
no,
Okay, the one service you have there,
yeah, for 281
okay, let's back up.
connection to.
It's a 1-inch poly with a U branch on it, I think. And capped. So right now, 53001 is being served by the south half of it and. There's a U branch in there. Or supposed to be at least. Unless the developer didn't put it in, but. But anyway, that meter box should only be in 2.5 to 2 3/4 feet north, parallel to Blackwell of the northwest corner of 53001. And that drawing just roughly is about 10 feet. This makes me nervous with the as-built. And I went on site on both of these to check.
Just for some reference notes, do you want to just mark that on your set plans or? You already do that? Okay, I see. Okay. Now,
Yeah. And keep them there. It's already on a soft copy. Yeah, just remind me when I'm talking, if you want a note, a physical note, I'll give it to you.
okay,
Anything else anybody has with regards to this site?
Nope.
no,
Yeah,
I think that those are easy enough to get rectified and then just pass it over to the commission.
Is the committee willing to advise the board to go ahead then with it? With the corrections we talked about?
yeah, for me, absolutely.
Okay,
Okay.
there you go. Okay. Okay, old business, okay, new business. So the water specs, draft of the water specs.
So, talking it over with Jim there, that there's actually, a full PDF write-up of instructions for these. You had a few changes being made to?
Yes, just a couple valve boxes is gonna be one of them. They did not get corrected and the blow off for expansion. Let's see if it got corrected. Yeah, it'll be corrected also. And along those same lines, I wanted to say something that. We can look at this and say, hey, overall, this is great, that's what we want to do, or no, we gotta make these major changes. But these are kind of fluid documents. Once you get out there and you're working with the contractors and stuff, say, oh, guys, I don't know why that's in there, but I don't think there's much of that. But you should be able to just randomly change to different stuff that you want, if you want a different meter box or a different something, okay?
Right.
You don't have to go to the commission every time.
No.
No,
to
no,
get
no,
these
no,
approved.
Those don't require.
No. Jim, I want especially, I want to show you what
What
they
you got?
That's what they used was a blow off in San Jose, and then there's actually 2 of them on the port system currently on the south end of Compass and on the south end, I believe, of Sullivan.
I've never seen this. So what size is this?
2.
Oh, yeah, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, and 2 inch.
Yeah, yeah. It works pretty decently.
So normal operation, like, matter of fact, this print right here.
Yeah.
You would have a blow off for expansion, so you
Yeah.
would put, you would be this page here, basically. So this valve would be an 8-inch valve.
right, right,
And this is gonna get changed to a MJ plug. So you can pull this plug off in the future and put your pipe in. This will be tap 2. And then you run your blow off.
right,
Up or over, like in this case, it's gonna be in the middle of the road, you'll have to run your blow off over to the shoulder a little
Right.
bit.
yeah,
We've been putting it in a box with a little PVC plug, so it's just a box, meter box.
yeah,
And the valve out here. So this is kind of the normal
yeah,
operation.
no, I know,
And if you wanted to do something like this is how we've been doing ours for years. We really want to catch the sediment and the stuff coming off the bottom of the blow off, so this would be
okay.
a cap.
Interesting, because I've seen a lot of the blow-offs and they don't always tap it off the bottom.
Yeah, yeah, and we want to catch the sediment
Sure.
and stuff, so this would be a cap with a thrust block on the end, like this
Right.
picture here.
Right,
And then we would put a 2-inch valve in here in a valve can and then just run it over a little bit. These are normally pretty close.
Right.
This is close.
right. what
And
they-
then that's in a meter box.
Right, and I think the reason they picked this approach in San Jose is so that they didn't have so much crap in the road. Cause you could literally tap the pipe. have the
Right.
Have the valve, everything all at once.
This is your valve
Yeah,
up here.
yeah,
Yeah,
Cause in
so,
the traditional layout, you would literally have this box in the road in line with the main. And it would just get removed when the main got extended.
yes.
correct?
yeah,
Well, yeah, this would be more for a situation like at an end of a cul-de-sac where it drops off a bank
Yeah,
and nothing's gonna go past it.
right,
Yeah, I was more looking at the actual specs in here
Yeah.
versus that.
The normal operation,
this is like, this one's more like we're gonna expand, and that one's more like at the end of the car.
Okay, you're not gonna expand off of that.
Nope. And then this has a corp stop on here, so a 2-inch corp is pretty dear. And then it has another 2-inch valve up here, which is gonna be pretty dear.
Yeah, it is, $527.
Yeah, so that's why I put this in here. It's a real valve. It's not a hand wheel valve. It's a real square operating valve, and then valve can, so we can shut it off right here. And that's how we did ours, but there's probably 50 versions.
Yeah.
If you like this one, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. But-
Part of the reason, it's like each one of us have run kind of a different show when it comes to water systems. Mine being the smallest, but kind of shirt tail, yours being middle, a bunch of residential, and then yours being, buffer water more. Where you got
Well,
commercial and a number of hookups.
I've been around, the district I worked at for 20+ years has about 10,000.
Oh, that one.
So,
I know,
this
yeah.
is pretty normal
Yeah,
for the.
yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah.
I just replaced all this. If I repair it, it's $5,000.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
By the time you get a contractor out,
Oh, yeah, the contractor, yeah.
about five grand to do replace all that from here.
Yeah, 2-inch
Pick it up
valve
and replace it.
about 300-400, maybe 500 for the
right,
valve, and then the
right.
valve can, and then this is just galvanized pipe in here is what we use, so.
Do you, somewhere in port specs, I think it's in the port specs, but I've seen it in a couple water system specs. When they have galvanized in the ground, they have you wrap it. And I can't remember with what at the moment.
I've never dealt with that.
What I can tell you is, at least up in the plat, galva seems to rust fairly quick. I mean, it got fairly corroded up in there.
Well, then it should be in the specs, then if that's the case, that it gets brass, and all fittings will be brass.
Yeah,
Trying to wrap it, I'll be honest with you, I
there's a.
don't see the wrap holding.
No, I'm with you, but I'm saying there was some kind of, I want to say in the ports water specs, there was some kind of, when you had a galvy pipe. There was some kind of wrap we put on it, and I haven't seen it used.
I haven't either, and I can't imagine the guy up there being very careful and tedious and making sure that there's no air bubbles. I just don't see where the tape's gonna actually hold.
As it's raining on them, yeah,
Yeah.
I got it, I got a visual.
But anyhow, the other thing is, so the valve cans will be different. These valve cans that are spec'd, they do not have the ears on them. I call them ears.
Yeah,
These do not, I want the ones with the ears, you line up the ears with the direction of the pipe, so
Yeah.
that's gotta be changed on all valve cans. This here is set up as a flange, that's weird, we want that to be MJ, so this has all been reworked already.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be changed.
No, I agree, you don't want, I don't want to do flange.
But everything else is pretty solid. The fire hydrant is a concern, and maybe the fire hydrant is a discussion, let's put it that way.
Okay, let's back up 1 second.
Okay.
To the one, I had a question, on the one where you have the, you call it the inline blow off assembly
Okay,
for future expansion.
yep,
Question, the table there with the diameter on the soil type, I was reading this and I couldn't find exactly what we're trying to
I'll
do.
be honest with you, I asked the engineer about that, and he explained it has to be there. So, but I'm with you, Jeff, I asked him, can we just remove it, and he's like, it's gotta be.
Okay,
So-
okay, so it's gotta be there, so what's it trying to say, or?
It is trying to say that for you to put this blow off up here, if you have clay, you've gotta have 40 feet of pipe in the ground to actually hold all the pipe together. For the end, I believe is what he said.
So, and so that's the deck, on this drawing, that would be the ductile iron side?
That would be all the piping getting up to the blow off, you would have to have that many feet buried.
Okay, fair.
So he said it's gotta be here, but nobody follows it, and it just is what it is.
No, that's why.
Because they all put a thrust block back here, everybody will put a thrust block. So-
Right, and you know, there is a type, and I don't, and maybe it's kind of like the plastic. But it's, you know, it's in ductile iron and stuff, but there's actually now a firm that's advertising or pushing their products where the restraints don't need thrust blocks supposedly.
Yeah,
Whether-
so they'll put mega lugs on this side of the valve, they'll put a
Yeah.
thrust block over here, and, yeah, so this, I understand what you're saying, cause I asked the same question, but that's what it is.
Okay,
So
got it.
many feet of pipe, that's.
Got
what
it.
it
Appreciate it, thank you.
is. Pressure reducing station, will come into play down the road.
Yeah, okay.
And then the air,
When we say station, that's not what we've been talking about up there with this design we've been doing with them.
No, not the.
this would be an vault, this would be a large.
Yeah.
Pressure reducing
Right.
valve in a vault to catch pipe and high
Right.
pressure ones.
Cause we're basically reducing the pressure on my old lines. Once it start, so they can keep that
Yeah.
pressure.
Okay,
Yeah, well, this would be more like towards the end of you know, legacy POA lines that
Got it.
really are coming down, Lakeland Drive here, down here to the bottom.
you wanna step
Really,
it down
yeah,
here, yeah.
Really, and actually, there's pressure reducing valves on every one of those homes in the waterfront.
Yeah.
Now, if you put one of these in, then you wouldn't have to have individual pressure
Correct.
reducing valves on each home. You could just be in a vault and then, you know, provide pressure.
Okay,
to
I'm
those.
with you, thank you.
Okay, and then the air vac, so. You would tap off the main, straight up. And then you would set a 2-inch resiliency square operating nut gauge valve and a valve can. That would be out at the road area, okay?
Right.
Then you would make your way up with the pipe to the air vac. It would sit in the meter box. And then you would poke out the side of the meter box at the end or whatever and put your standpipe up. That's what this swing joint here is in the top right. That swing joint will allow, if the pipe gets hit, backed into, it'll allow it to just fall over. Or
Oh.
either direction, if you hit it either direction, it'll allow that pipe to fall
Right.
over. That's what the swing joint is.
Rather than actually giving and breaking,
And then actually breaking the air back that's in there, so,
because that portion of the line doesn't have pressure on it.
no, it's just sitting there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just sitting there waiting to do its job, and so. So that's that. Does anybody have any questions on that one?
No, I've never used them, but I get it, I
Okay,
get it.
And I guess this is just a question for me, I mean, what applications do the vacuum valve assembly? When is it required?
I request them a lot. The air vac. Allows if you have a main break or if they're fighting a fire, it allows air to come into your water system. So it can draw and it doesn't bust the pipe. Cause
Okay.
it will bust the pipe, it'll suck closed like it can. And if your pump is creating air and if there's stuff stirred up a little bit, it will push the air out. It'll send the air out. You wanna put these at the highest point of your development, and if you do not have any airbags up there on the hill,
We do not.
I would suggest, if not this drawing, the next drawing, you guys probably should get an airbag put in. So it allows air to come in and allows air to escape.
Good.
Okay? And that works great when you know, you have a main break down here and you gotta shut the water off, then you gotta turn the water back on, all that air and everything,
Oh, yeah.
it'll make its way.
Takes away all the hammering on the pipe.
There, it'll go back up there. So if you don't request it on this one going in now, I would certainly catch the next one. It has to go in. Okay? The fire hydrant assembly detail, very normal, very straightforward. The only discussion is, I stepped up and required, a Mueller, Super Centurion, which is normal, 250, which is normal, but it's a high security. This has a built-in check valve right here at the foot. That will keep people from, hydroseeders or something filling up, and then we have a main break or
You say
something.
at the foot?
Yeah, there's a check valve right here,
Oh,
internal check valve. That keeps water coming back from the top of the fire hydrant back into your water main.
right.
It actually keeps people from doing some crazy stuff with a pump and a tank of stuff to actually roll up and pump back in. That check valve will prevent that, okay? It's not a new hydrant. It has been on the East Coast for decades. It is relatively new out here on the West Coast.
Hmm.
We've been putting them in. They've been a little struggle to get, about 2 months to get out.
Yeah.
But they're getting more common. We've got 6 more going in. So that would be the only thing, is we're requiring one hydrant and one hydrant only. There's 2 vendors for that. There's Core and Main and Mueller, or Ferguson. But H.D. Fowler does not carry this. But that doesn't matter, but that's
Right.
just a discussion. I want you guys to know.
But you say Mueller does.
Mueller makes them. So Mueller's the manufacturer, and wholesalers around here would be Ferguson or Core and Main.
Right, fine. No, I could see how we can get water back up in there.
Yeah, so,
Especially if another hydrant opens up.
yeah, this is a great idea. It's just not been common practice out here. So I've implemented it and we're going forward with it, and I suggest at this point we go forward with it here. But I don't, it doesn't, here. We can take off, Mueller Super Centurion, take off the high security and put or equal.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
the problem is, and it's not a problem, but it's a problem for generations to come after us.
Right.
We're gonna end up with every random brand of fire hydrants there is. And repair kits and parts and knowledge for people in the future. If we get down to one brand,
yeah,
then the ones that are going in are the same ones going in.
right.
So,
No, I know the problem. I've done maintenance support in a different industry, and the more switches, the more fun it is. to
Yeah.
Support.
so but this is a major discussion, and it does not bother me whatever you guys want to do. You guys,
No, I mean, first of all, fire hydrants, it costs a thing anyway, so I mean. To put a check valve in there. I'm sure it probably costs another 1,000.
oh, no, it's about $500 difference.
Oh, well then,
Yeah, it's $500.
jeez, that's the no brainer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that stays. Let's go on to the next
You
page.
got that, the notes on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Single adapter fire service connection. So this here is, the water district would stop at the backflow preventer for the fire system.
Yeah.
So this would be more likely a large building,
Oh,
and then apartment or something like that, commercial building, and our responsibility would stop at the backflow preventer. This would be in a vault outside.
right,
This would have a meter on it because it's a detector assembly. But I don't know if the district has any of them yet, but they will in the future. Here's the next page is the separation. I talked about, tracer tape.
Yep.
Tracer wire, all the normal stuff.
Really interesting thing between the two drawings. Okay, so like the first one, you see how the bedding is all around the pipe? But on the second one, when you look at, and I understand what you're trying to show here, but on the other, then they talk a pipe on undisturbed. Whereas here, it has the bedding all the way around. So wouldn't this be bedding all the way around?
Is that showing the end of the pipe? I'll just say this one.
Yeah, that's what you said, and on the bottom portion of the pipe, it actually shows
G01,
loose bedding.
on
Yeah, yeah.
G01, it shows the bedding.
So this, so minimum utility separation.
Yeah.
This is really showing the separation. They didn't need to get into all the bedding. This talks about, here's what the trench really is, here's all the ground.
Okay.
This is just showing the.
Okay, yeah, I saw the remark, it said
Yeah, you see the undisturbed soil.
Yeah.
Separation.
Yeah.
The pipe sitting right on the undisturbed. I mean, you would want that bedding around
Yeah,
the entire pipe.
Which is this,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, that's the bedding, yeah.
it is, it's fine, I mean, as long as,
This is stuff that,
Just have detail,
the
this is
engineer-
separation detail.
yeah.
It's different.
This is stuff the engineer can clarify. You can make a note and say,
Yeah.
hey, da, 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 da. This here truck blocking is very normal.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys are already using that. It's very standard. This is the wet tap detail. So this would be for a hot tap. Instead of taking people out of service on a large line, you need to tap in another large line.
right,
That's what it would look like. Repair band sleeve, basically P, and then the valve and valve P, so. That's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
This one here, the isolation valve. So this is, he made this page to go back to the airbag detail because it was too involved.
okay,
And he put on the airbag to see G05. Cause you gotta have a corp stop here. And then a nipple on the 90 and then the main 2-inch valve, cause those airbags tend to fail over time, 10-15 years.
right,
They will fail and you need a real valve to shut that thing off and everything in the road, so that's what that is, okay? This is your airbag feature.
so
G5 is really an airbag detail for the isolation valve.
Yeah. Yes, and let's see, 3-inch isolation valve. So did you have any questions on G05?
no, I mean,
Okay,
no, and the 2 inches, okay, no.
so the 3-inch isolation valve is really still an airbag, and if you start getting into larger 12-inch lines and stuff, you need to put 3-inch airbags in
Right.
instead of 2-inch.
Right.
So that's what this is, that's all that is.
I noticed here that, you know, they are starting to, you know, brass elbow, brass nipples,
Yes. Yeah.
but then galvanized over there, but. Anyway, but,
Everything should be brass on the valve side to the main,
okay,
and then if the galvanized has issues, we can just shut it off right here, find out what's going on.
right,
And sometimes these airbags have a long run, maybe from here to the wall or
Yeah,
something,
right.
because wherever the main is and stuff. Single family residential connection, it's pretty normal, you've got your corp stop, and then you got your fitting to adapt to the poly. Put your poly in, this does clear up 1-inch iron pipe size only poly.
so let me ask you a question, because I've seen this done 2 different ways, like if somebody's. Developing a whole block. And because they got the pipe in, they just put all the stops and polys in. Do you still require a corporation stop?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We got water main going in now. And, yeah, everyone's going in, even though the pipe isn't charged.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So a
yes,
corporation stop for every connection?
absolutely. Yes, absolutely, just like the detail shows.
every wet tap basically, well,
Every tap.
Every tap. okay.
Every tap.
Saddle connect, or
There's-
saddle, any tap.
There's many times that a rock will work its way through something over a 30-40 year period or whatever, and you need to dig down and get this shut off.
Yeah.
So that's very common.
And that's every tap on the iron duct tap.
Yeah, on the ductile iron, yeah. And then it goes into a meter setter with a little check valve. That's very common now. And then the only difference is it's not extremely common. We were having problems with the developers.
Right,
Because the water main goes in, the services go in. We're very anal on, let's make sure where the box is going, let's make
Sure.
sure it's straight, let's make sure it's level, is it up to grade, let's see
Right.
what's going on. And then they come in and they rip the box and everything out of the ground and hook up to the setter, which is inside
right,
the box area. So I said, we're not doing that no more. So we're putting an 18-inch nipple on that, and we're putting a stake out here, out on the ground on the customer side, connect here. So there is the setter, a nipple screwed into the setter that gets you outside of the box is perfect,
Right.
stay out of the box. And we put a stake out here, say connect here.
so as far as responsibility, okay, so once it's all said and done, normally the demarcation point is the high side of the meter. Basically, or the meter, one of the two. Is it still in that setup, or is a demarcation point out there at that pipe now you got?
Well, I don't know, I'll be honest with you, I do not know what a demarcation
You're
is.
talking about where the home worker connects to. So
Okay,
It's
It's
a,
right
I'm
here.
sorry, it's a
So you
term,
see it back here and back here.
it's a term,
So who pays for this piece right here if there's something?
that would be, so the developers come in and the developers pay for every bit of this going in. If the district is putting in a connection, that is part of those fees that they charge, that's part of the connection.
But there's a
And-
leak here who pays for it in the future, if there's a
No,
leak here, who's
it's,
paying for it.
it's custom,
No,
everything past the
but
meter,
the- Well, that's what he's talking
Yeah.
about. Is this past the meter now customers, or is this because you put this in?
If it leaks at this joint right here, where literally the.
Well, that's what
it's not gonna leak, but if it
That's
did, yeah, you can deal with it.
yeah.
You know,
Oh,
yeah, navigate it, but yeah, you're not,
No,
it's gonna be a
and
brass
I'm
nipple.
sorry, the word demarc comes from the telco industry, which is exactly the same, well, it's electrons. Where you have a point where the utility is responsible and then the
Okay.
user, it's like, oh, things
We
like,
require another shut off valve right here, because we don't let anybody touch the meter or the meter box.
Right,
So we require, what we do is bring it out here, and there's another shut off, we call that the homeowner's shut off, and we leave that there for the connection. We
Right.
put a plug on the other side of the valve, and that's how we do it.
so, if there was a leak here, if there was, this is
No, no, no,
brass on brass.
no
but
problem.
If there was,
I'm just-
the district would go out and say, hey, we'll fix this
Yeah.
one, or whatever.
So, I'm not trying to be anal about
No.
it, but it.
Well, that's what these are supposed to
Yeah.
be, it's kinda anal, like,
Yeah,
hey, what
yeah.
are we doing? So,
Okay.
but we wanna keep them out of there, we've had meters that are nose diving because the plumber
No, I
don't wanna
know.
put any fitting.
We know that, right?
So,
We know about these meters that knows
Oh,
that,
boy.
I would try to follow this
Yeah.
detail, it works.
yeah,
I know that, I've actually gone up and looked at the majority of the meters because, well, it's part of the job. There are several that aren't very square in the box.
Yeah. So 1.5 and 2 inch
This
services.
solves that. This doesn't allow that to. Right, screwed up.
1.5, 2 inch services are a little different, it's a very large pipe, obviously, for the service. We require a little brass nipple coming off here and another 2 inch square operating nut and valve. So that does two things, if that line ever fails, or if you've gotta get in there and
Yeah.
shut this thing off, you can shut it off here. But it also tells you where your water main's at, that's a great location tool, it tells you exactly where that 2 inch line's tapped off, and the main's right here.
right,
So that works great. And then, the 2 inch setters and the 1.5 inch setters have a bypass here,
right.
So-
yeah.
required a high bypass. But other than that, it's pretty,
Good, cause we didn't have them in our system and I don't think Fort has any yet. But typically, why do they typically have a bypass? I mean,
so you got a large apartment complex
right.
and you're the district and you go out here and the meter's malfunctioned.
okay.
You need to change the meter out, you could turn the bypass on, those people will never know you
Yeah,
were
that's
there.
fine.
So,
We just been a little sensitive around here as people tap in the.
Yeah, so there is a lock on them.
Yeah.
There is a padlock on them, which doesn't mean anything, but you can check them once a year, every 6 months.
Yep.
So that's why there's bypass on the large meters. This here, the double check valve assembly, so this is very normal AWW
Right.
standard. This will be in a box, 6-inch airspace below the double check valve, 12 inches of pea gravel below that, and you're good to go. So that's pretty straightforward. Yeah,
I remember Mace the other, but you don't, in that box, you don't need it to drain, or do you need it to drain?
you don't, this is not an RP, so this doesn't go to waste or anything.
Okay.
But you really wanna keep the groundwater and stuff out the best you can. And this gravel really helps with that and keeps the box pretty clean. And you wanna know what else the gravel does that I have found out over the last
Yeah.
30 years? The moles start digging.
Caves in on.
Yeah, and it starts caving in, and they won't get into that box and fill that box up with dirt.
Huh.
So that's
The
really,
the reason I'm bringing up this issue about water is that in the plat here, like at around 2 feet, in a lot of places, you can start sucking up water.
Yeah,
Because depending where you are, there's a couple places actually by that big rock on Wheelwright, just north of this development, where the hard band is right at the surface.
wow,
yeah, because of how it was cut,
Yeah,
yeah.
and, so what I'm getting at is, I know that hard pan, because, what TJ did in the back of his corner, he was in the hard pan, he put a hole just to kind of collect the water. And we did this in the middle of summer, and it just started loading up,
wow.
in August.
This 3, 4, and 6-inch compound meters, to be honest, you can do away with that. You don't really have to have that. I don't see in the future where you're gonna have a big need for that, at all.
If it's in there, we have it, if we
It
never
doesn't
need
hurt
it,
anything.
it's just still there.
Right.
Yeah, it don't hurt.
I would say
Just leave it.
because when they were doing the memory care thing, they were bumping up against some of these things.
Yeah,
And actually, the engineering fell a little short here too. When they originally brought to the port, and before we even started all this, there was a couple of things they noted and passed on to Travis that, okay, so if they're gonna run sprinklers, what are we doing? There's a number of things that just like,
Yeah.
remember. Okay,
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time on that.
Yeah.
About
Well,
a,
and
after we put a bunch of this together, the whole project done.
well, and on top of it, because the size of the line, the apparatus is gonna be about 5 or so feet long.
yeah, it gets real.
Well, and then the problem is, they didn't have that room on the easement to put the apparatus or in the property, how they were laying out the building, and they were just, it was like one thing connected to the next, because one doesn't thought through, then the next, and
Right.
the next, how it goes. So anyway, I'm just saying, leave it in, at least, even if it isn't used, it gets people, engineers thinking and say, okay, what are we really trying to do here?
Sure, it's not gonna hurt anything. This SO5 is an RP device. This is the one that will go to waste if there's a backflow incidents. This is above ground. This has to be the state standards 12-inch minimum from the
Right.
bottom of the device for air. Some of this stuff, a PRV is optional. If they have high pressure, then that would get put in. That's not required, everyone,
Right.
Yeah.
it should have a shut off there coming in, couple of unions, so you can change out that device in the future, somebody can get in there and work on it. So
Right.
this pretty normal.
Right.
And then this one just got left in, fire sprinkler metering, this is a whole separate issue. 1-inch meters, yeah, it said it will be required for sure. And a flow through system will have to be adapted if they're gonna have a fire sprinkler system in the building.
Right.
So,
And this would be true, like, in other words, like for how, we're
for
gonna.
homes,
Yeah.
this is not
Yeah.
commercial, this would be a
Yeah.
residential home.
Okay,
And if they do that, then they'd have to have a 1-inch meter minimum.
right,
And pay for that, and then they would have to have a sink or something in the back of the house that would be tied into that fire sprinkler line. Or put it to a toilet that would get used from time to time.
Sure.
Okay, and that's,
Water would move. It wouldn't
Yeah.
be Stagnant.
so that's the requirement there.
Certainly don't want to test a house with a lighter.
Yeah, let's see if it works.
There's no specs for, same thing for like sprinkler systems, yard requirements.
So no, it should be in the written part of the standards.
Okay.
If you have, there should be a cross connection control program policy here. I don't know if there is.
There's
But
written
There,
down.
and we have one written up.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sure it's something we're gonna address changing.
yeah, and it should clearly state in there, if you have an irrigation system, you need this device,
Yeah.
which would go back to this time it's put.
Okay.
Alright,
The other thing with the ductile and the C900,
You know, it's funny, that's what I said, I
it-
pretty much agree with everything here, and then I said, the only thing I,
bring it up again, but
yeah,
they're digging up there on the hill, laying water main right now for us. But if you hit that C900, it's, you know, a tooth or something, it's a big
No,
mess. You
no.
hit that ductile iron,
It explodes.
yeah,
no, we,
Ductile
you
iron.
hit that ductile iron, it's pretty tough. I'm not saying you can't hurt it,
No.
but it's pretty tough.
yeah, the port has firsthand knowledge of that situation. Um, when they thought my system was tied into that port system, they went and dug alongside the line. And one of the tooth caught one of the valves and snapped it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it wouldn't happen with
No,
ductile,
we're-
bigger machines and stuff,
Oh,
these
yeah.
things happen, but it would be a lot more resilient and, that would be something if you guys, whatever you need to do, but, this clearly states that this is ductile iron pipe.
Right.
For pottery.
Okay,
alright,
And it's also the same OD as the C900, so wherever you have blow off for expansions now and everything else, it'll go right into the
Yeah,
MJ,
sure.
so.
yeah. Okay, anything else, anybody? Oops.
No, I mean, I got some notes here, and mostly just kind of like, notes about how to use these,
Right,
not really any changes to them.
right,
So I feel comfortable with bringing it to this commission as another piece to the water system plan update puzzle
right.
of, and getting them to, you know, take a look at it and say, yeah, we.
Basically, and it's not even really, I mean, it is part of the plan, but it's basically trying to get us to a standards.
Yes.
Right, and then I'll get a copy of the written portion that goes along with it. I did think about it going, well, maybe we should wait till we have the written portion to go with this to approve,
Right,
but.
You don't have to, this is, you don't have
Yeah,
to.
I wanted to get this in front so that we could actually get this incorporated into any future
Yes.
additions right now.
right, cause you have, you have a number of things pending.
Right.
Okay. Any other discussion about,
So just lastly, I guess I would ask for the commission or the committee's recommendation on, for, you know, giving this an approval to the port commission for adoption.
yeah, make a motion to approve that.
okay, it's been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next. So we went through that,
General discussion.
general discussion. So, first thing you had up was something, wasn't it the, as-built?
Yeah, the as-built, the 6-page as-built, that's still a work in progress, which I was hoping there would be a lot more to it at this point, but, I have coordinated with, port maintenance to go up here next week and start taking measurements on all the valve bodies so that we can get elevations over to the engineers. And also note where some of these, connections are. For some of these houses, it's just, they're not showing up on here.
No, as, as example, the 181 Blackwell, my rental, it's
Yeah.
not tied to the system, it's on a well.
Yeah, well,
And as an example, they have a link there, but.
But then we look over and we've got, all the houses on Cedarland Lane, it doesn't show any of their individual
Right,
connections.
but, and just sticking with what, you know. I would, I don't know. Part of me would recommend that, you know, getting this drafted and at least take the elevation layer off of this for sake of the. Working through this because it really will get it confusing.
Okay,
The other thing is, they are still planning to do a profile, an elevation profile.
that we'll be discussing.
Okay, because that's what I handed. You know, the report with turning over my water system was both. You know, like a view like this, the vertical view, but then also a elevation profile, so you know where I am relative to you, or what pipes are relative to which pipes. And you know, if it's not in our specs, we really should have it. You know, like when engineering, when people do work to lay out the plans like this, they really should lay it out. I mean, you're going to need it to incorporate it into the port's database. Of data, you know, as far as drawings and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, what's your feeling, Jim?
Well, when I get a set of drawings. When I get a set of drawings, there's multiple pages to the drawings, they're a full set,
Yeah,
and it shows, here's the topography.
sure,
Here's the water line drawing, here's the storm drawing,
right,
here's the sewer drawing,
right,
here's every drawing, you get a stack of prints
Yeah.
that big. And I'm not used to working off of this. And along those same lines, I said it last meeting and I'll say it again, that if a developer is using a particular engineer. And he drops off the print saying, hey, we're ready for review, wanna make sure you guys are cool. We should not use the same engineer. That we need to verify it, we need to ask, we need to want this, want that. This needs to be changed, and it goes to another engineer for another separate independent review that the district has hired. To protect the district, it should not be kept in the same house with the same engineer on this, that did the original drawing. And then actually double checking for you.
right, so okay, conceptually, I don't have a problem with that, it's. You know, I'm looking at safety and then cost, safety and costs and maintenance and support and all those kind of things.
Part of the developer extension, when he comes in and pays his fees.
Yeah.
There should be a breakdown of those fees, there's $1,500 for us,
Right.
that is a plan review.
Right.
And it's very hard, even if everybody's cool.
Yeah,
It's very hard to have the same engineer that actually did the drawing to think of it differently.
yeah, I know.
And to reevaluate his own work, that's
Right.
very hard. So I'm saying that it's very important, and there was an instance just 6 months ago for me. That I brought up and I wanted to do this and that, and they figured out, cause it was a large dead end line. And I wanted to put an automatic flusher in
Sure.
and everything, and he figured it up and he's like, yeah, there's too much water here, you can step down the size of the pipe and stuff. To reduce the amount of
Right.
water. I'm like, God, that makes totally sense, I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
But if I had taken it back to the same engineer that actually did the original
You would've
design, he
tried to-
wouldn't have caught.
right, you still have the large pipes.
So I'm just saying that it's very important for the district to take it to another independent engineer, that's all. I'm saying.
No, and I could, at least our experience here was, you know, on what I'm bringing up, at least dimensionally. Obviously, something's getting over, like, first of all, it doesn't match their as-built. You know, in other words, the ones for Exodus is not matching the as-bills that West Sound's producing, which bothers me.
Right. So, there's several engineering firms around, the developer is certainly paying the port to have a review of the print. So anyhow, that's just my comments.
I think, and perhaps I think we should incorporate something of that nature. Only because, like I said, I'm seeing it just in this, and he's got experience, the other, from what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the independent review.
Yeah. Um. So I don't, other than, because there's so much. Because there was so much data I gave and it's not all there yet, and. We got sewers coming up in the middle of driveways, cleanouts that aren't there. I'm a little. I'll just say this, my response is, we're not there yet, we're not ready for prime time.
No, this is complete.
No, I'm not, okay, let's start over. We're not accurately ready for prime time. If we're getting incomplete, I can handle incomplete, we're not accurately,
What we have here isn't an accurate representation of what's in the ground.
correct. And that's concerning,
How do you fix that timely?
pardon me,
How do we fix that timely?
yeah. Well. They could use my old drawings that you get. 40% of the port system, 30% of the port system. And then take all my, I broke out, like, so every time there was a crossing, I tried to get a measurement, you know.
Yeah, I get it, but is this holding up development?
Say this again?
Is this holding up development at all?
No,
No,
That's,
It is not.
that's making,
It is not.
that's, I'm gonna make it.
Oh,
this is a separate issue.
Alright, just making sure.
Separate issue.
technically it's holding up a contract between
Yes.
me and the port
Correct.
on a Medford line, but I'm not, that's not my hangup. I know you'll work it through, so. But I
Alright.
agree, if you're hanging up a development, yeah, you don't wanna do that.
Alright, what next?
All right,
We're
next.
Hour and a half here.
Yeah, no, my two things will be quick,
Alright,
And we do have somebody on Zoom.
yes,
so
we'll get you over and then we can.
Yeah.
Public comment.
right? So, okay, back to water, general water system discussion. Actually, I can do two things. Well, I'll do a separate. Water system plan update. Port's gonna have an update requirement here shortly, within the next year or so. I think at some point, we should, get at least familiar with the existing water system plan the port has. And, pick your top 5 or 10 things, 15, whatever. That are blatant things that we need to be addressed.
I agree.
And, if we do this. The other pressure point on it is not only that there's a due date, I think it's in 2027, but that they have to have it, but the other pressure point is that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, we're at what count right now of allocated connections?
It's 41-ish, somewhere in there,
No, I mean, left to allocate?
Yeah.
So how many?
like 41.
41, okay.
Well,
I thought we were,
I think we're actually under that now, we're probably at 38.
okay. But. The port cap,
I'll have to triple check.
yeah, but some number X, somewhere between 35, 40, somewhere in that, but all I'm getting at is. The lots that are owned by one developer alone could, eat that up,
Correct,
and then everything comes to a stop.
correct.
Because your limit of, including mine, is 150 total.
And we're talking about ERUs here, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
we
yeah.
have
Essentially.
the ERUs left, yes.
So that's, okay,
And then part of that, a water system plan update is these complete as-bills have to be completed.
that would be the pressure point for this other document.
Then also we have, we've already adjusted our water policy, we've already made headway with all of our contracts and through those. So now it's just a matter of making sure that the design specifications are redone, which is a portion of the written work you're gonna, give me a copy of here pretty soon. That ties in all of these specifications, which would be our new design.
Right.
Minimum design, specifications. Then it's literally a matter of the rest of the engineering jargon that's attached to the water system plan.
Yeah.
And
Right.
having a independent firm review and adjust that.
Right,
So that we can, we're pretty close on all the things that we can do.
right. The reason I bring it up in addition to all this too is just looking at us reviewing. There'll probably be one or at least 2 meetings probably, and then you start looking at the time and then the dates with these different things, and then when they go out to bid, then when it's engineered, when it comes back to us, then when it's, approved by the board. all of a sudden you're out there a year and a half easy,
Oh, yeah.
so.
So the sooner I can put all this together, approved by the board, and say, here's all the things that we can do, which we've come close to. It's really a matter of getting
Okay,
these as-built done, because
yeah,
approving these and the written portion that goes along with it, tied in with the water policy and all of
we're
our
getting close,
appendixes, literally, we take all of that and we said it's, we go out for a bid for professional services and
right,
say, here's what we need.
right,
Give us a bid on what it's going to take to finish this off.
right, and that's why I'd like to have, a committee look at the existing plan ahead of it, so that we can come up with any additional,
And it may be something that gets done much faster than that.
yeah.
Because,
One
you
can
know,
hope,
A majority of what we say, hey, these are what we are working with, these are the pieces that you don't need to do.
yeah, sure,
Take out all the fluff from the previous plan and just put it all together so we can send it to DOH for approval. But DOH, you're looking at least 90 days
Oh, no, I
from
know.
the first comments.
yep, yep,
So,
okay. And then last but not least, like to, at a point, I don't wanna make more work for you, but. At some point, at least the committee should be at least aware what the budget is and what makes up the water
Yeah.
system budget, so. Because that's a standalone. Enterprise to the port, so it's gotta be self-supporting, and I'm somewhat aware, because I've worked the budget in the past, but the other two members, can be up to speed and at least generally know what's going on. So, okay, next meeting date,
Public comment.
but they got,
Oh, yeah.
we got one more thing, yeah,
Yeah,
next meeting date,
should be October 1st would be the next
okay,
first Wednesday of the month.
okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Should be good then,
I will be out of town then.
Okay.
Okay,
How long
yeah.
have you out of town?
thanks to the two vol.
Got my calendar with me. Uh,
I just wanted to comment, I
I'm
listened
back on the 7th.
to,
Okay.
the
And it is, of course, if content is available, I imagine there will be, because that is at a point where I'm sure
okay, so
budgetary discussions will occur, water system wise.
lots of different
So
discussions about,
okay,
it's not impossible to hold one without you.
Yeah, if it doesn't matter to the otherwise you can move it to the 8th.
keep in mind that the,
I'd still get the material to you, and then if you.
I could give you comment,
Yeah,
you should
yeah, if
get
there's something really,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
gets your attention, okay,
All right, so we'll still hold it in the first.
okay. Well, still holding the meeting for October 1st, the next meeting, okay, public comment, and you say there's somebody. See somebody up there at the top, I can't read it.
Yeah, Mr. Cedarwood, would you like to comment?
Yeah, you, okay, there you are, okay. Can you hear me?
Hey,
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Joe, would you like to comment?
Are you there? Okay, I think I'm on now. Can you hear me?
Guess the answer is no.
Can you hear me?
yeah, so it's not showing any hands or anything, right?
Okay, no hands. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Well, good.
Scott, right?
Yes, I'm ready.
It's been made and seconded. All those adjourned,
All right, meeting adjourned.
thank you.